Hi, Leah. Laya, how are you today?
I'm good. How are you?
Fantastic. Thank you for joining us today.
Absolutely.
Hello, everyone. If this is your first time tuning in, this is Entrepreneur Beginnings with Queer H CEO. That's short for Queer Hispanic CEO. If you want to go ahead and Google that and follow me on Facebook. So, typically, what we do here is we talk about the entrepreneur's journey and how it began. We talk to entrepreneurs locally in the United States and globally, talking about how their start began. Well, how their dream came to life and how hard they worked to make their vision come true. And so today we're going to talk to Laya about the different obstacles that she's had to overcome as an entrepreneur to make her the successful real estate agent that she is today. Are you an agent or a broker?
An agent.
Okay,
So
perfect.
the difference really only is that as an agent, you're really interacting more with the public, as most brokers just oversee a bunch of agents, since the broker really takes on the liability and then the agents do the actual transactions.
Absolutely. Excellent. And so today our episode is so this show is sponsored by Corporate Diagnostics Center. You can visit Corporate Diagnostics Center at www.corporatediagnosticscenter.com. If you are an entrepreneur and you have just began your business, you can go ahead and contact me. I do have business to business services, and there is a link in one of these posts that you can get 40% off of the next 6 months of your QuickBooks membership. So go ahead and sign up for that today. And welcome. So tell us a little bit about yourself.
Thank you.
What do you?
Well, thank you for having me. This is very exciting.
Thank you for coming. So are you in Phoenix? Are you originally from Phoenix, Arizona, or?
No, originally, I was raised in Germany by my German parents who adopted me when I was a baby from Brazil. And then I moved to the States when I was 12 in 1992. And I've lived here in Arizona since then. I had recently moved to California for a couple of years and then recently moved back about 2 years ago, just before the epidemic hit. So
Yeah,
just
well,
perfect timing.
perfect timing. Absolutely, absolutely. So tell us a little bit about yourself. What is it that how did you get to where you are? How about that?
Well,
No, that's a big
in all
question.
honesty,
That's a loaded
it's a
question.
huge
Whoa, that was too much. That was big for me. I just had an existential crisis asking you that question. Let's start all over.
Yes, we would
What,
need to cover 20 years of history for that. But
I want you to start back in 1982.
when I was two.
Exactly. So what got you into this business that you're in now?
Well, frankly, so my ex-husband decided that this would be a good way to start a business and an inexpensive way. And at the time, I decided that I wanted to learn as much as I could about it, and I found it fascinating and interesting, and it used a lot of my creative ideas and my ability to speak to people and interact with people and help people for that matter. And so I decided that I was also going to do that. And in 2006, I got my real estate license here in the state of Arizona, and I've been doing it ever since.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah.
And so did you always know you wanted to be an entrepreneur and have your own business, or was that just something that you?
No, I've always been a little bit of a person that didn't want to do things the normal way. I think partially just because I found it too structured and boring and to be too confining. And I wanted to be able to work for myself so that I didn't have to punch a card and not have to exchange my time for money. So that the time that I did spend would be more so for myself, that when I did work, that I had the greatest potential of making the most amount of money in the smallest time allotted.
Absolutely. And a lot of people, so once you have experienced that, making a bigger larger amount of money in a small period of time, it's hard to ever look at money the same. Because if you can
Exactly.
get it in that big of a lump sum in, you know, in a matter of a phone call or two, it's hard to ever go back and work a 40-hour a week job.
Well, I mean, not to be confused with the fact that real estate is more than a 40-hour a week job. You work all the time. When your phone rings, you pick it up. It doesn't matter if it's on a Sunday night at 7:30 and you're at dinner with your family, you're picking up your phone because you might need to answer that phone in order to make that money. And a lot of times I work for free
Yeah.
because people come to me for information, or they end up not purchasing or selling or both. And so even though it looks like I make a lot of money in a big lump sum all the time, that's really not the case. I really have to work hard for it. And if I spread it out over the hours that I spent with that person of how
Yeah.
much money I really make, it probably would average out to the same as any other job. But at the same time, I have now the choice when to work. And that really is what makes it unique.
Wow. Have you ever thought of, you know, those people that go and write synopsises for movies? You just did a synopsis of the entrepreneur condition, right? Because that
Yes.
we never go to sleep. We are always working. I love that. I'm
Mhm.
just like, I'm going to have a day off today. That day off means I'm going to have 3 hours downtime, but I'm still going to be on my phone, making sure I'm managing all my pages, right?
Exactly.
And so that's
Exactly.
as an entrepreneur and as a real estate agent, because you are still an entrepreneur, you are constantly working towards your financial goals and towards your end goal, right? So yeah,
Exactly.
we are all
Always.
there.
And sometimes you don't know when your next paycheck is going to come. And it's terrifying. And you're like, oh my gosh, I have all these bills I need to pay. And so it's really important that you learn how to save your, what I call saving your nuts for the winter.
Yeah.
When your financial winter comes, that you have enough to pull you through, and that you have enough to pay your bills when those times get dry, which they will. It's up and down. You're either super busy or it's feast or famine, that kind of thing. But in the long run, it's really worth it, because the time that you do have off, you're not having to report to that boss saying I need this time off, or I need, and them being able to have the power over you to say yes or no to you.
Absolutely. You know, I had a really interesting conversation with my first client today. And instead of charging him, you know, the $350 an hour of investment that I'm going to be putting into his project, I was just like, I took $300 off and I said, I would rather you pay me monthly. And like, you know, and because that is residual income is more important than the lump sum of receiving it right away, because honestly, feast or famine, right? Like you never know.
Absolutely.
When you're building companies and real estate, sometimes people are in the market. Like it was odd. Wasn't it interesting that during the pandemic, there was a little bit of wasn't there a peak in people buying houses, or did it drop?
Absolutely. The real estate market went absolutely crazy. And until about, I would say, about 3 months ago, we had an absolute feeding frenzy, especially here in Arizona.
Hmm.
And it was craziness. And right now it's kind of funny, because the people who live here already don't really want to sell their homes, because where are they going to go? There's
Yeah.
nothing. They would have to leave the state in order to upgrade their living, or they would be trading like for like. So a lot of it has kind of slowed down a little bit right now, which is not a necessarily bad thing, because just like in the stock market or any other kind of, you know, any kind of market, there's ups and there's downs.
Yeah.
And then there's times when it's just what we call, consolidation time. It's just like in the stock market. Sometimes it just stays in one place for quite a while, and then all of a sudden it, jumps back up, and then it goes back down a bit low. But overall, if you look at like a chart of the stock market of its entire life, for instance, or the real estate market of its entire life, you're going to see a steady incline over the years. And
Yeah.
that's just the nature of the beast.
Absolutely. I think that's wonderful. Is there so and how long have you been in real estate for?
Since 2006.
Since 2006. You know what's really
Hmm.
interesting is I love that you don't have a podcast, because you should. I watch your videos and I think, wow, I wish I could do what she does. I and when I have to I have to be here. I did a pre-recorded podcast once and I was more nervous because I was like, okay, now what? Like now I just wait. Like it's like here, it's instant gratification. It's out there, we're live, there's no taking
Yeah.
it back,
Yeah.
right? And
Well,
so
but and the nice thing is with this, it's having a conversation. I think having a podcast is super intimidating, especially when you're thinking about just being the one person talking by yourself,
yeah.
and you're just talking into the camera. But if I'm talking to you, yeah, it's like talking to everyone who's watching right now. And it's just like you and me having a conversation, or that person watching having that conversation with me.
Whenever you take me on a tour, and I want you to hear what I'm saying. Whenever you take
Yeah.
me on a tour through a house, I always look to my husband and I say, right, we should buy this house from her. Like, oh my God, look at the countertop. We're with you. Like, you don't even realize your magic. We're with you in that moment buying this house. So it's phenomenal. That's why I was so happy to get you on this show.
Oh, that's so great. Well, it's funny because I when I do go do an open house, especially when it's not my listing, I'm pretty picky about what houses I pick. And if it's a house that I like, I'm going to be excited about selling it. I'm going to be excited about showing it to you and saying, look how beautiful this is. Look what this designer did, or, look at this beautiful floor plan. And it gets me excited
Yeah.
because real estate is such a wonderful way of, especially as creative people, to walk into and say, oh, I look at what I could do, or look at what appreciating this beautiful art.
Yeah. I love that.
Yeah.
Do you do the staging or does somebody do the staging for you?
No, I never do staging myself. If a house is vacant, and there's two thoughts of school on this. You can either stage it through a staging company, which costs some money, and sometimes I would say if the house is worth at least 500,000 to $1 million, it might be worth it. But some people can't look through other people's furniture, even staged furniture. Some people
Mm,
don't like staging furniture because it's super trendy and people are not into that.
yeah.
I personally like walking into a space with nothing in it. Maybe some beautiful light fixtures, something, especially if it's a renovated house, some beautiful lighting,
Yeah.
beautiful fans, beautiful wall colors and cabinets. But I want to picture how I would put my things in there, but I'm a creative person and not everybody's capable of that. So
Yeah.
there's two different ways of selling something. Now, in this market, when things are flying off the market, honestly, it's not even worth it for me to call the staging company, because they're going to be booked out a week in advance. And now I'm not getting the furniture when it's already sold. And now I'm out $3,500 for a stager that I didn't need to spend. You know what I mean?
Yes. I understand.
Yeah.
No, there was a woman. So I was looking, it's very hard to find a king size white duvet that is what I'm looking for, right? And then this one
Mhm.
woman reached out to me and she's like, "Hi, I stage homes and I'm gonna retire. Would you like to buy some of these things?" And I was like, "No, I'm fine." And then she sent me some photos and I was like, "What incarnation? I have hit the jackpot." It was the most gorgeous
Yes.
things you've ever seen, and they've never been used. They've only been tossed
No,
from one place to another. She's like, "I dry clean it
exactly.
every week," and like this whole process. And I was like, "That's so interesting. Your world is
Yeah.
very intriguing to me." So
Yeah, staging is a wonderful line of work to get into, especially if you have the availability of furniture and getting, wholesale prices on furniture and decoration. Or if you're very talented at shopping and you have the cash to set that up. It's a very large cash investment up front, but it can be a very lucrative business.
absolutely, Laya. And
Mhm.
so are you specifically licensed just in Arizona? Or do you focus
I
in
am.
Phoenix, or is there different areas?
So I am licensed in Arizona, but I belong to the MLS that is in Phoenix and the surrounding areas. So I can, and within reason, what also I can do is, if you wanted to, you like me and you want to buy in a different state, you can always call me and say, hey, I want to go live in Washington State. And I can, as a real estate professional, will find you a real estate agent that will do the best possible job, just like I would if I was in Washington State.
Yeah.
And so that's, there are relationships like that I can form for you, so that you are
Mm.
confident going into the deal that you're being taken care of the way I would take care of you.
Absolutely. And as a fellow Phoenician, that's actually the way I've always functioned. Like once I've had my real estate agent, they've always took me to wherever I needed to go, because you know
Right.
that they know who you are, they know how you live, and that's just the way it is.
Exactly.
I do want people.
Because we become our friends. My clients always become my friends,
Yeah,
and I care about them probably way more than I should.
absolutely. I'm going to invite people to email you if they want to get in contact with you. You can email
Absolutely.
Laya at LAJALAJA1980 at gmail.com, or you can call her at 602-369-4799. So I do need to ask you,
Yes.
when did you become an entrepreneur? What was your first experience into this world?
I would have to say, when I was about probably 14 or 15 years old, I wanted to go on this church trip, and it was very expensive. It was like $500, and as a 14-year-old, that's a lot of
A
money,
lot of
right?
money. Yeah.
A lot of money, and I wanted to go on this trip, and it was to Washington D.C., and I was very excited about it. And so my friend and we begged our parents to give us a bunch of old furnishings and clothes, and we cleaned out our own rooms and everything, and we had a garage sale, the two of us together. And I remember my mom had given me a bunch of old designer clothes. Now these were like 10 to 15-year-old clothes, but they had brand names in them, and
Hmm.
I was determined to make some money off of them. And I remember trying to sell these very expensive clothes that were old and used, and I was selling them to people for, I remember I had a pair of white Escada pants, and that, they were literally like 15 years ago at the time. So I decided that I needed to get $50 for them. And I remember I sold them for $50 to this
Wow.
lady. And that's not bad, right? I mean, pair of used pants. Now, granted, there was a label that was fancy inside the pants, but hey,
Yeah.
he bought them. And I realized, oh, if I tell people that I'm excited about this product, and that how nice it would be look on them, not lying to them by any means, but selling them the product, being in love with that product myself, and
Hmm.
telling them how it's quote unquote going to change their life in that moment,
Yeah.
I realized, I'm like, oh, I can take this item and sell it to this person for X amount of dollars, and that was more money than I made in 3 weeks of babysitting,
Yeah.
and I was like,
Absolutely.
oh, this is way better than working for somebody. And
Yes.
so that's where I realized I have to sell something. And I've always sold something
Hmm.
since then. I
And
did a
that
lot
makes
of
sense.
multi-level marketing as a teenager. And let me tell you, multi-level marketing got a lot of money from me in those days, because I tried everything.
I love that. Someone had
Yeah.
mentioned that to me the other day, and I had to Google it, and I was like, oh, that's a really interesting world. I have never done anything
Yes.
like that. I know people that have gotten involved with that. There's a lot of industries that I'm very like, I'm like, no, I'm good. But they message me, and so I do business to business services, right? And so I had to
Mhm.
ask myself, like, how do I feel about these brands? And I was like, hmm, I don't know
And you
yet.
have to be really careful. You
Yeah.
have to be really careful with those, because multi-level marketing is really designed like a pyramid. And even when they're not considered pyramid schemes, they really are, because the people who get in the beginning and are at the top are really the ones that are making all the money.
Oh
And the
yeah.
people underneath, it's like a Ponzi scheme almost, and it's so every, the further you are on the bottom, the bigger loser you're going to be. And no matter how hard you work, you're
Yeah.
not ever going to race to the top like the person who got in underneath the person who founded the company.
Absolutely.
It's it
I
just
love
doesn't
that
work. It's like
it
communism,
doesn't.
or something great. It's like there is a natural order to things. We can't all be equal. And in a pyramid scheme, that's exactly what it is.
Yeah. And that's what
Top
I
down.
exactly. And that's what I had realized too, is that when so I had started another organization so that way I can help provide jobs around the world
Hmm.
through some contracts that I had, or I have. And so I was like, I'm going to come up with a global structure. So I came up with a global structure, and, I just do what I do. And somebody reached out to me and said, I'm really concerned. And I was like, what are you concerned about? She's like, did you start a Ponzi scheme? And I was like, what are you talking about? And She's like, you hire
Oh,
directors
wow.
around the world. And I was like, yeah, why wouldn't I? And she's like, that just seems kind of like a pyramid scheme. And I'm like, no, it's
What?
advertisement. Like these are actually legitimate major global brands that I'm providing to people in third world countries, to people in refugee camps.
Right.
The reason why I made people directors is because I can't speak all these languages. I can't speak
Right.
Spanish. I can't speak Tagalog. I can't speak there's a lot of languages I just cannot speak, right? I
Right.
can't I can't speak Swahili, for my friends in Kenya. And so like I had to have a person in the middle that can help that, right? But what
Right.
I realized through this other organization about empowering people is that, you know what? They're called the Parity Organization. And so what they do is that you basically sign a pledge saying that you're going to always have a woman in office with you. Like that's going to be a C-suite executive. You'll always leave
Mhm.
a position available for them to apply to. You'll always have a woman in a position at management, a person of color in these positions, a person of color or a woman on the board of directors, right? And so that made
Mhm.
me think to myself, why don't I empower these people globally to have these responsibilities and give them paid what they're worth? And it blows people's mind. Like, why? Why is doing the right thing so uncomfortable for you to witness? Like, that is the weirdest thing I've ever seen.
I think it's just because people are raised with the preconceived ideas that we've all been raised with, and we're all just now coming to realize that these norms are really not normal at all, that they're actually quite
They are not
crazy
normal.
and abnormal. Because
Hmm.
guess what, women have been in power since the beginning of man, because hey, we run our families, we run our, we run our households, so
And I'm
for all
pretty
intents and
sure,
purposes, we've been our own bosses for a long time.
yes, and I'm pretty sure there's a woman that's been in power much
Mhm.
longer than most of us have been alive. You know who
That's
you
right.
are, Queenie.
Yeah, right. I mean, look at Germany. They have had a woman president. We were making such a big deal that we had a woman vice president. Well, which is fantastic,
We're so
wonderful,
come
love it.
on.
But you know how long Germany's had a woman president? I think for the last 20 some years. So that this is not a new concept. There's lots of countries around the world who have women in high power, or the ultimate power for that country. And
Yes.
so it's not really such a new concept. It's actually quite shocking that the United States has only now seen the light, to all of
No.
this, and that we're saying, oh, this is so forward thinking, when we're actually quite backward thinking.
Behind.
If you think
Not
about it, we're
backwards,
actually
behind. Just
behind.
behind a
That
little bit.
that's
Yeah.
yeah, that's
We're just a
definitely
little
behind.
behind on some
Yeah,
aspects of it, right? And so I think
but
that's just
then
a lot
again, there's a lot of things that we're far ahead,
pretty far ahead, yeah.
and it's empowering that, finally things are changing, and that now they are changing so quickly.
Yeah. You know what's really interesting though is that like so knowing that I had taken this pledge for Corporate Diagnostic Center, not for DK International, but for Corporate Diagnostic Center, I had reached out to a lot of women that I knew, and they were all very uncomfortable with me asking them to be on my board of directors. Little did I
Mm,
know it was more of a responsibility than an advisory board. I thought I was inviting people to
mm,
an advisory board. And so when I was like, be on my board
right,
of directors, like, come join my clubhouse, guys. No, that's not how it works. This is actually a board of directors. It's very serious. And there's a
right,
lot of legalities, and there's a lot of technicalities, and a lot of money's involved in this, right?
right.
And I was just like, okay, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna establish my company. I'm gonna revisit it and give them another opportunity to participate in this, because I really believe that the more people I can get involved, that won't have that opportunity really to have that type of platform, I'm going to give it to them. Like whether the world's ready or not, you better watch out. Here we come. Um,
Yeah, exactly.
I'm excited. So, okay,
Whee!
so
To the
right
moon.
to the top. So for you, when you see what you're doing now, I'm so excited. All of your videos with your houses that you do are just so fascinating to me.
Oh,
Uh,
stop.
I wish I
I
could
just
talk. I wish I could talk about some of the things we talked about last time, but we won't because you
oh,
have. Did you take my advice and write it all down on paper and mail it to yourself?
You know what? I have yet to do that. My last week was a
Then
little
don't bring
bit
it up here.
eventful. I'm not going to lie to you, but it is all up here, and I'm very excited because I'm now finally in the headspace that I can actually go ahead and do
I'm going to
that.
give
So
you a cutesy little look. Do you want to see the cutesy little look?
yeah.
So, my dear, my dear friend, your brilliance and my brilliance and our collaboration with Jared's musical influence, we are the trifecta because I now, as of yesterday, am an app developer. And so, as an app developer, I will make your visions come true. I didn't bring you here to pitch you. I literally was just like,
Oh, I know.
yeah.
You
So
already did that. You already did
I already
that.
pitched you. You're already in. That's not.
That's
But
right.
as an app developer, whatever it is that you envision after we do all of the legalities and the contracts and stuff,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
will bring your vision to life and we will make it happen. So,
So exciting. I mean, it's funny because when you're a creative person, the biggest thing always is how is it going to happen?
yeah.
Right? Who's going to listen to you? Especially when you don't have, a ton of money to invest yourself, or you don't have people that you don't know who to call, and then when people reach out to you just because you're being yourself, for something as simple as me walking through my open house with my phone, and you
Yeah.
call me going, "Hey, Laya, I think you have some great ideas, and I think you have some talent." I'm like, "Oh, yay, someone finally noticed." You know what I
Yeah.
mean? It's kind of it's almost unnerving because you're like, well, where's the catch?
Yeah.
And so you have to believe that the universe sends you these things in the right moment at the right time with the right people,
Hmm.
and that then you just have to be open, and it's not your responsibility to know the how. It's only that you're supposed to just know the vision.
Yeah.
The
Exactly.
universe will bring all the how to you.
Let's talk about
And
that
it's
because
hard to believe that.
and that's one thing that that's one of the key factors of what an entrepreneur, from my perspective, an entrepreneur is a visionary, right? And so for my organization, for Corporate Diagnostic Center, I want to empower those visionaries to make their vision come to life, right? And so you said that key word. So what's your vision like right now? Like what is
My vision is that I can not only, I want people to enjoy and love their life.
Mhm.
And when whatever that may look like to you,
Yeah.
what my idea of the perfect life is going to be a different vision of what your idea of a perfect life is. But my vision is to create, for myself, I want to create something that makes me the income that I'm wanting,
Mhm.
not out of greed, but in order to be generous to my friends, my family, and myself,
Mhm.
and my family. My little family, it is more or less myself, Jared, and my mother.
Yeah.
And so, I want to make our life the best possible. And I think, if you have the vision, if you want to take vision from that and say, okay, what can I create to be a blessing to others, right?
Yeah.
And within that, make money that makes my life the happy life that I want it to be. So, and even if it's a business that maybe isn't, changing the world or feeding the hungry, it might be a business that just meets a need, an immediate need for someone just next door to you, and it could be
Absolutely.
something. I mean, like, take the creative of, like, food, food that you order online, right? And that is being delivered to your house. Now, 3 years ago, none of us even knew something like this existed, right?
That was somebody's vision.
So these people created this not because they wanted to help their fellow man. They created this to make money. But guess what? You and I benefit from that all the time, right?
Yeah.
And it's wonderful. And we don't have to worry about running to the grocery store. Someone can go grocery shopping for us. Someone can go get us food from God knows where and bring it to our house, and we pay them a small nominal fee, which in turn helps them out, which in turn puts food on their table and blesses me for not having to cook dinner tonight. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
So it helps everybody. And so, we don't always have to have these grand visions of, healing the world, but sometimes healing someone's world is just something as small as delivering their groceries to
And it
them.
just happens organically a lot of times. So like when I
Right.
started my company, did I want to go and start a global, kickoff and start like providing jobs globally? No, that wasn't my I was all home based, right? This is what I'm
Mhm.
going to do. And organically, as I got to meet people globally, then yes, like everything changed for me, right? But so there's and that was why I wanted you on my show, is because a lot of people like you, I feel like you're not empowered to say I'm an entrepreneur, and you should be empowered to say you're an entrepreneur, because what did I say about the synopsis about the entrepreneur condition? You broke it down for the whole wide world to hear, because that is the entrepreneur condition. And so as a real estate agent, I had Danielle a couple weeks ago, and she sells press-on nails, and that's super cool. Like, but there's all these things, right? I have a friend that she still hasn't come on. She doesn't believe that she's an entrepreneur. She reads cards. No, you are an entrepreneur. Like, you are
Absolutely.
working for yourself. You don't have, like you
Right.
said, you don't have to have this grand vision. No, but if you're working for yourself and you're helping somebody at the end of the day, you know what I mean?
Right.
You may think that it's just a very little moment, but you don't know about that person that's walking into your open house, right? That has completely just had her whole world or his whole world come crumbling down. And this house is that next chapter in their story. And you're part of
Exactly.
them.
Or you're that person, they walk into your open house, and now I'm not just a real estate agent. I am a marriage counselor
Yeah.
and a financial advisor and someone, a shoulder to cry on, essentially. I mean, like in 2008 when the market crashed, right? I used to joke, I show up with a bottle of wine and a box of tissues, because, to list your home, because
Yeah.
essentially you were going to lose your home even though you were selling it, just, in a different way. And you became that person that they cried to, and you said, it's gonna be okay, you're gonna be all right,
Yeah.
and you would wear a lot of different hats, in that situation where, and later
Absolutely.
on, later on when the market turned around, it was a lot more fun again. But it's you do wear a lot of hats. You're not just that profession. You are everything else.
Yeah. I actually wanted to be a real estate agent a long time
Now
ago.
you're
And
great.
no, no, you know why I'm not going to be great at it? Because I focus too much on the detail, right? And so
Mhm.
like part of the test like asked this one question, and I was like, what are all the types of stones that a house is built with and the different types of granites? And I went nuts thinking I had to memorize all this stuff. No, you don't have to memorize all that stuff, but my brain doesn't function that way. I cannot be a real estate agent. I would bore. You should have saw my client today for the first time. His eyes rolled over, and I said, "The train leaves sometimes. Like the train, I can't stop the train. Like stop." And I'm like, "No, no, no, bring it back." And then little by little, as I pumped the brakes, he was like, "All right." He came back to life, and I was like, "Okay, we're good." So sorry. That I won't geek out again. That was just too much information. That's what I would
Well,
do as a real estate agent.
and as a real estate agent, there it's so funny because people will ask me a question and they expect me to know it, right?
Like
And I'm
right
like,
at the
I'm
bat.
sorry, I don't know. I'm gonna have to go find out for you, right?
Mhm.
Because I can't possibly know everything all the time. Because I guess what? Since 2006, I've never had one deal that's exactly the same. Because I've never sold to the exact same people the exact same house twice, right? So therefore, every transaction is different every single time, and you always have variables in every situation that are
Yeah.
going to make everything unique. And when you have that, you're going to have a different outcome, and you have people, and when you have people involved, everything is always going to be different, always.
Can I
And
ask
it's
you a
it's the
question?
it's the absolute in real estate and in business in
Yeah.
general. You are dealing with people, and as long as you're dealing with people and not machines, you're going to have emotions and mentalities and preconceived ideas and
Hmm.
notions and gender roles and uh, all kinds of craziness that pours into that,
Cultural
and relationship
differences. Yeah.
dynamics and financial situations, right? So you have to be patient, not only with them but with yourself, and be like, I don't know everything, but I'm happy to find out for you, and I will do my best to find out for you, and I will help you make the best possible decision, because guess what? If I don't do a good job for you, I'm not going to be able to have any residual business from anyone else, because you're not going to refer your friends and family to me, right? If I
Yeah.
don't do a good job. So it's always in my best interest to do the best possible job for my client. Unfortunately, people don't always remember that. But once,
Yeah.
sooner or later, you are the real estate agent where they know that. We always joke in real estate, you should always be someone's first love, second marriage, and third real estate agent,
I love that.
right? So, because by the time you get to your third real estate agent, you know if they're telling you the truth. And 99% of the time, most realtors are good people with good hearts. Some of them are a little jaded, but most of the 99% of them are good people that are really just trying to do their best. And if your personalities jive, they're going to do a good job for you,
Absolutely. You know what? I love that you said that because I practiced my pitch and then I got like everything I practiced. I sat in front of my computer for 4 hours and I messaged one of my partners, like not they don't own I own my company, but they provide me with a resource. And I said, so I'm gonna be in your system today. And I just want to let you know I'm kind of like a bull in a china shop, and it's only so I could figure it out. So I'm gonna break everything, but don't get red flagged. Like everything's good. I'm just trying to figure out all the ways I could go wrong with this situation and make it all right, you know?
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
then, I put myself through this like 10-hour ordeal. I went into the meeting, everything that I practice, everything that I research, we discussed none of that. Actually, none of it. We just organically just got there, and it was just like, oh, okay, this was different. So it doesn't matter how prepared or unprepared you are. It is in that
Right.
moment of what you make within it, you know?
Exactly.
Yeah, I love that.
Precisely.
I do want to ask you something though. It's a very unique question because you're the first real estate agent I've had on here. Can you tell us a story of someone you didn't know, but your favorite sale that you've ever had? Like that historically, what is
Oh,
that one success story where you're just like, this was great. Like,
I had a recent one that was very unique.
uh-huh.
So I think the hardest part of real estate is client acquisition, right? To get clients to want to use you, because I'm literally competing with 40,000 other realtors in the state of
Literally.
Arizona alone, right? So why would they want to use me instead of Joe Blow down the street, right?
Yeah.
Well, I had fried my boyfriend's Fitbit in another charger because I plugged it into the wall and the wrong thing, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, I fried the thing. And I went on on a resale app and met someone locally, and I ended up giving her my card out of pure desperation and just going, hey, by the way, I'm back in real estate. This is like a year ago or so. I said, I'm back in real estate. I've been a realtor since 2006, but I just want to give you my card just in case. And I bought this little Fitbit from her, and about 3 weeks later, I call her or text her or call her or something. And I was just like, hey, I'm just reaching out, wanted to see if you had mentioned you were considering possibly selling your house and buying another one. I don't know if you're working with anybody, but hey, I just want to reach out to you and say hi.
Yeah.
And sure enough, I ended up selling her home, and she ended up buying another home 2 months later. And it was just one of those things that was completely out of left field. She didn't come as a referral from a friend. She didn't come from me doing a bunch of marketing or
Yeah.
being on Facebook, like, with my camera in some open house. She literally came from me having to purchase something off a resale app, where you locally go meet the person and buy the product from them.
Yeah.
And I just handed her my card, and I think the biggest thing, what I've learned from that situation, is never be afraid to say, hey, this is what I do. When you're an entrepreneur, don't be afraid to step out and be rejected by a potential person. Don't be afraid of that, because you will get rejected. It's guaranteed, right? And most of the time you probably will be. But
Everybody's eyes glaze over when I tell them what I do. So my husband was like, you need to dumb it down. And I was like, what do you mean dumb it down? He's like, no, nobody likes anything coming out of your mouth. And I was like, well, that's rude. But he was right though, because then
Yeah.
when the second he said that, then I looked at people when I was speaking to them, and I could just see them glaze over after like the third sentence in, and I was like, yeah, he's right. I should really fix how I present this. And so I changed everything.
Yes.
Yeah, I changed it all.
Well, and never be afraid to reach out to someone and say, "Hey, here's my services. Let me offer them your services," because you will hear no, right? Like I
Yeah,
always say, it's very the inevitable is there will be a no, but there will sometimes be a yes, and those sometimes are the ones. If you hadn't stepped out of your comfort zone, if you hadn't taken that chance,
yeah,
you wouldn't have the opportunity.
absolutely.
And that's I think that's one of the hardest things to do as an entrepreneur is set yourself up for almost 90% of the time rejection, but the other 10% of the time you're going to get a yes, and that yes is going to be huge. I mean, that was two huge transactions for me this past year that if
Yeah.
I didn't have them, I would have been very, that would have been very devastating to me. And I made a friend out of it on top of it, and which is great. And my boyfriend got a
Absolutely.
Fitbit.
I love it. I love it so much. Do you have an app that you sign into or anything? Like how do you like your industry, right? Because you know how like you're also competing against Zillow. Let's be honest.
Right.
Like you're
Yeah.
competing against
So,
Zillow and
mhm,
like all these other big things because I
right.
personally like whenever I look to buy a house now that I live in North Carolina, now I'm looking at Zillow, I'm looking at all these different
Right.
apps and there's not really a person involved. And then when you meet that person, you're like, "Ooh, I would never want to buy anything from you because you're not in my wheelhouse of people that I normally would engage with, right?"
Or that you're even comfortable with,
Yeah,
right?
like giving you all of my personal information. So how do you get through that?
Um, well, here's the thing. So back about 20 years ago, the MLS, multiple listing services, was only available to licensed real estate agents in the country. And then they made a deal with Zillow, I believe it was, and a couple other, I think Realtor.com,
Okay.
and that the listings that were being listed, houses that were listed, businesses, land, etc., rentals, were all going to be publicly shared onto these websites for all to
Hmm.
see,
Yeah.
which really it scared a lot of realtors out of the business because it took away the exclusivity for us real estate agents to have that piece of information. So now we had to reinvent ourselves to show people that having us in the transaction is really still worth it and worth your money that you're going to spend, which is such a small percentage, really,
Hmm.
to protect yourself and to have someone who knows the market and who knows what's going on protecting you,
Yeah.
right? But for all intents and purposes, for you to just pop on Zillow and say, "Oh, I want to buy this house." Okay, well, do you know if it's really what the price in the neighborhood is going for? Do you know if this seller is hiding something that now you're not legally protected because you don't have a real estate agent like myself looking over the paperwork, making sure that inspections are being done correctly,
Yeah.
making sure that your mortgage person's not pulling one over on you. Now, that's a lot harder to do these days than it was, in 2008, but
Yeah.
all of these factors come into play. I'm like a real estate agent like myself. Yes, you can go and find the house you want to buy on Zillow, but for all intents and purposes, it is in your best interest to walk into a real estate transaction being represented, because
Yes.
if not, it's like walking into a divorce without an attorney. Yeah, you might come out on the other side the same way, but you don't really know if all your options and all your opportunities and all your
We're
for lack
offered
of
to
better
you.
terms, all your check boxes are checked off to make
Hmm.
sure that you're legally and protected,
Yeah.
right? You don't know who to call. I have people in my arsenal that I can say, "Oh, you need to use this title agent, they're going to get it done. You need to use this mortgage person, they're going to get it done." Right? Because how many real estate deals have fallen apart because the mortgage person doesn't do their job,
You know what I
you
just
know?
heard you just describe right now, and like literally, I literally would move to Phoenix to buy a house from you. Literally, I just sat here completely mesmerized by you, and I was just like, what you just described to me was the number one thing missing in business today, and that's accountability. And so
Absolutely.
by you saying that I know these people, what you're telling me is you're going to hold these people accountable, not only to what they're offering and what they're giving your client, but also to their credibility, you know, to what they
Absolutely.
represent, because that's what they're supposed to be offering. And that is the way to do business. And that is, wow, I commend you for
Mhm.
that. You can't teach
Thank you.
anybody that, those types of values or ethics. Those are very well
No,
instilled in us.
absolutely not. And the thing is that it's almost like hiring a good contractor to remodel your house, right?
Yeah.
You want someone overseeing and keeping people in check so that you're protected. And, it is well worth it. People, you'll see all these commercials on TV. Oh, it's a discounted rate, or you're going to save so much money, or sell with us because you're going to get this discount, or we made so much more money because of this company. Let me tell you something. If you have a good real estate agent, it doesn't matter what company they're with. It doesn't matter, what program they have, because guess what? We all use the same multiple listing services. We all have the same tools that in our arsenal. We all deal with people. But the difference is, who are the people you're dealing with?
Yeah,
That's the
absolutely.
difference.
Huge difference.
And that's the only difference.
I can't agree with you more, because even so, like, again, with being an entrepreneur, see, we're speaking the same language, because you and I are from completely different entities, completely different industries altogether. However, what you just described is exactly what I experienced. And so for me, in order to be in the position that I'm at, I had to find all the middlemen and take them all out and become the middleman, because I was like, no, no, this one service wanted to charge me $549. Do you know, when I went directly to the state, that it was only $65? What were you charging me for? And what are you charging the rest of the American people for? Absolutely not. No, there's no reason to make
Mm-hmm.
that much of a markup off of a little piece of paper. You know what I mean? And so I was empowered
Yes.
by this one company. They were like, have you ever thought about, just, going to the courthouses yourself and like filing all these paperworks? And I was, I thought of that, but then I was like, I'm going to need like at least 250 employees. He's like, no, I'm going to send you something and now you can do it by yourself. And I said, stop it right now. I get to do this by myself. Are you kidding me? Because I'm efficient and I don't like when people get ripped off, right? I don't like that. It
Right.
bothers me, because
No.
people like me that want to make my dreams come true, and other people's, I'm stifled, right? And so that's not okay to stifle the American people. Like, let's empower each other and get each other out of the rut, so that way we could all be successful together and make a better,
Absolutely.
yeah.
And it's really unfortunate, because someone always has to ruin it for everyone else, right? There's always that person that is greedy and does it out of the wrong motivation, or they do it with they just want all of it for themselves. You know what? Guess what? There's enough business for all of us.
Everybody.
For all of us, all 40,000 or 45,000 active real estate agents in Arizona, there's enough business for all of us to have a good living, to live a nice life, to have enough clients, right? But then you have those that, don't see it that way, and they treat you like a number. So when you are hiring a company that claims to have these astronomical claims, because by the way, in this past market, you could be a monkey and get 50,000 over asking price. You didn't need to be a fancy guy on TV. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You didn't have to have any skills whatsoever. So for someone to claim that is really unfair to the rest of us, because it's like, hey, guess what? I can do that too.
Yeah.
And let me show you that I'm actually the better choice, because I have to work hard so that you send me your friends and family for me to be their real estate agent, right?
Yeah.
These people don't care if they do a good or a bad job for you, because just with their advertisement overhead alone, they're just going to get another person and another person. They don't care who they may
Because they're
upset, or who they,
short-sighted. That
or
is
they do
why.
bad by, right? And it makes me want to use some very choice words, and I'm holding myself back here.
You can't do that. We're on too many platforms.
Exactly. And I'm just going, these people they're not good people. And,
Yeah.
they might start out as that, but greed always gets the better of people. And unfortunately, that's the truth. But for all intents and purposes, the average real estate agent is going to do a great job. And that's why I always encourage people, even if they're not going to use me, use an agent. Don't think just because you have access to things like Zillow that it would be in your best interest just to go ahead and do it yourself.
Where would they call you? Where would they call you at? What's your number again?
It's 602-369-4799. You can call or text me. You can email me at laja1980@gmail.com. You can ask me any questions you want about real estate. I'm happy to answer them. I'm happy to set up searches. I'm happy to give you what I think the market's doing right now and what would be in your best interest. Believe you me, I've talked many people out of selling lately because they're going, well, if I sell my house, what do I do? And I'm like, well, you can do this or you can stay in your house for the next 10 years. And most of the time they'll go, yeah, that sounds like a better idea. And I'm like going, oh, that's taking money out of my pocket, but it's what's in their best interest.
Absolutely. I love that. So we are coming down. We have like 9 more minutes, but there are 2 more questions I have to ask you. And this is just so good. I could just sit here and hear you talk all day. However, hopefully does Jared know my personality type?
I'm not sure. I think he's starting to get to know you.
I need him to Google these 4 letters. E, N is in November, T is in Tango, J is in Juliet. Okay, tell him to Google that. And that the next time I send him a contract, it better be on my desk by morning. Okay, no. But seriously, we'll get to that later after.
We'll figure it out.
I love it. So the question, and this is like the bread and butter question of my show. Okay. So what is one of the things that you know now that you wish you would have known when you first started being an entrepreneur, when you started becoming an entrepreneur, I should say?
That it's not personal.
Okay.
It's not personal. It is personal to the person it's happening to, but when things do go sideways, or when people choose not to use you for whatever reason, or they literally do you wrong and you did everything right and you did it right, you can't take it personal. You can't let that settle into your soul and jade you and ruin you and destroy your soul. You have to Jared used to be a firefighter, and so he taught me, put it into a black box. He put it into words that I never thought of before. And I'm like, yes, you put it into that little box and you stuff it away, or you journal it out, right?
That's a bad. Everybody that's listening to this podcast, erase, delete what she had just said. That is
you need to box that up.
Not healthy.
This is
no,
not.
I know. Go ahead.
This isn't real. This isn't what defines me as a person. This doesn't define me who I am as an entrepreneur. Yes. This thing that went wrong isn't who I am.
Yes.
And the second thing is, honestly, being a real estate agent is a means to an end. It's not who I am.
Yeah.
I am Laia. I am a woman. I am a lover, a daughter, a friend, a sister. That's who I am, right? I'm not a real estate agent. That's just what I do for a living.
Yeah, I like that.
And sometimes and that may change from one day to the next, right? Because when you define yourself as who you are in your profession, whatever that may be, a hairstylist or a doctor or a lawyer or someone who mows lawns for a living, if you define yourself as a person and that goes away, then you crumble. But if you find your identity in who you are and not let any kind of failure or setback define you as who you are, you will always rise back up to the top and be able to step up and say, okay, I'm okay now. You deal with it, right? You stick it into your box, you journal it out, you crawl in your bed for 24 hours. But after that's done and you've dealt with it, you can rise back up because it doesn't define you.
I love that so much. Yeah. So that leads me to my next and the final question, and the most important question of all that. I love that. That is so true. So what's one piece of advice that you would like to share with an entrepreneur, with an entrepreneur just starting?
Don't give up. Never give up. Don't take no for an answer. Keep working hard. Keep trying. And always remember, the people who are successful are the ones who do things that others aren't willing to do. Now, that doesn't mean you have to you don't have to do illegal things or immoral things, right? But what I'm saying is that, right? But you need to be able to be willing to do things that it makes others uncomfortable, right? Because if you're, let's say, for instance, I don't particularly like making cold calls, right?
Yeah.
And calling people on the phone I don't know. It makes me uncomfortable. But I have to do that sometimes, and I have to step out. And so, a lot of times, I feel hear no. I mean, you know about that,
Oh,
right?
absolutely.
And you have to do things that make you uncomfortable. If you are not okay with being uncomfortable, you should not be an entrepreneur. You will constantly be uncomfortable. Being an entrepreneur is not comfortable.
I think at some point we find a nice, comfortable place within the uncomfortableness.
Yes.
Like we just like kind of mold into it. Like, oh, this is uncomfortable. Everybody's like, why are you sitting like that? I'm like, because it's just my new normal for now. You know, I haven't sit up like in a year or
When
two.
you have success in your entrepreneurship, right? Yeah. Everybody looks at you and says, "Oh, I can do that. Oh, I can do that. Oh, really? Do you know all the sleepless nights I had? Do you know all the worry I had? You know how many times I had to go take other little jobs so I could pay my bills in the beginning because I didn't have enough money to keep a roof over my head or food on the table? I had to take other jobs or do things and work harder to get here. Nobody gave this to me." Yeah. Right? I worked for it hard on my own. And when you can say that and know that, so then when people do say nasty things like that to you, or even behind your back or on social media, you can say, yeah, it just falls off of me like water off a duck's back, right? Because it's not going, once again, it doesn't define who you are, what other people's opinions are. You know, I love this quote. Other people's opinions are none of your business.
Absolutely.
Right? So let them talk. Let them say whatever, but
I'm going to have to say this quote since we're talking about quotes because it lines up with this. I never knew this until just now, what my Nana meant by this. But my Nana Virginia, she used to say when I was a child, "Mijo, always remember, money talks and bull walks." Yeah, and I said, what does that mean? That's what that means. Because you know what? People are going to do this all day long, but we're going to be collecting this while they're doing a lot of this.
Exactly. And then they go, "Oh, that was so easy for you." Oh,
yeah, no. It looks easy after we've done it for so long, but because we become the service matter experts, because it becomes our profession, it's our life work, and so we could turn a 4-hour job into a 2-hour job into a 1-hour job, and then we can create those efficiencies. But that doesn't come overnight. Exactly. That is years and years of little bits of information, not even bulks of information, little bits of information that we've collected over 20, 30, 40 years, right? So I love it. I do have to say thank you so much. I hate that we're out of time, but I want to say thank you so much for being on my show. I can't wait to share it. I think that you are going to be amazing. Oh, I can't wait to see your vision come to life. So again, this is Entrepreneur Beginnings with Queer HCEO. That is short for Queer Hispanic CEO. Feel free to follow me on Facebook at Queer Hispanic CEO. This is live with Restream, streaming on 12 different platforms, and we will be live on Apple, Google Play, and Spotify. So thank you very much. We will also be podcasting on Facebook and LinkedIn and who's the other one? They don't matter right now because I'm upset with them. The entrepreneur.
Be gone.
Yes. And so make sure if you want to get in touch with Laja, it would be LAJA again, 1980 at gmail.com, or you can call her at 602 369-4799. If you are not in Phoenix, Arizona, but you do want to get some insight as to maybe who she can send you to or refer you to, that is a real estate agent, she will be happy to do that. Again, you guys, thank you so much. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you.
Thank you. You're